Welcome back to another Pack Perspective here at InsidePackSports.com. And if you haven't done so yet, please subscribe to the channel at Inside Pack Sports. Also, check out the website, www.InsidePackSports.com, for the latest information on NC State athletics. Once again, I have back with me NC State legend Emeka Emezie. We took a break last week. We needed a little time to decompress, everyone. It wasn't good. We're going to still discuss the Virginia Tech game, Emeka. But with Campbell coming up, hey, we could take a break. We wanted to have something positive to talk about this weekend. But before we get into the Campbell game, let's go back to Virginia Tech. I know you watched it. Just give me some quick thoughts on that game. And like, I know for me, man, I never would have thought, if you had told me going into that game NC State would have held Virginia Tech to 23 points, I'd feel pretty damn good about State's chances.
Right. It's just really truthfully with the offense, right? They carried us up until this point. And just like as a whole, just to feel like we were just not playing to win or not playing to really truly dominate, regardless of the situation with the head coach, regardless of everything they have going on, right? We have to focus in on ourselves. And I feel like to play at NC State, to play at home, that's the most important thing. Like you don't lose at home. We protect home. We protect the fans, especially in games like that where we're supposed to win. So it was just, we needed a break from that one, truthfully.
Yeah, and I think it's a game that when we get to the end of the season, I know you've been in this situation. There are games you get to the end of the year, you say, that one hurt us, right? Like that one, when you look at that final record, you're going to say that was one that hurt us. You probably can make the same argument for Duke, but you can't do anything about them now. All you can do is go out and try and maybe pick up one that some people didn't think you could maybe get. They have an opportunity to do that this weekend. We'll talk about that in a few minutes. But let's go to the Campbell game. I know you've been in situations where you faced FCS opponents before. What's the mentality like that game week? I always think it's interesting playing, like if I've coached or if I've played in some pickup, city leagues. I know Jake's done it as well. Where when you play that team at the bottom of the bottom of the standings, Emeka, and you go into it, you feel like, okay, I might be able to get 30 this week. I mean, this is going to be a good week. As an offensive player, to you guys, you're done playing now on the college level. You can talk about it. You guys go in saying, hey, this is a stat pattern for us. This is one where we can get our numbers this week.
Yeah, absolutely. I think you see the shot plays. You're like, oh, you see yourself scoring those, right? Get a few extra touchdowns. You see where you're at on the ACC leaderboard. You're like, maybe I can move up a little bit. So, that's a part of the whole entire process. I think that it's important to go in with that dominance. Of course, like the first quarter, obviously you kind of feel things out, but it's really important to not allow them to have any kind of chance. But usually you're able to get that step on them the first quarter. But yeah, it's usually just a stat padding type of game for ourselves.
And look, NC State did it. Like this, to me, when you look at them, we're going to talk about the final 6 games, the upside, all those different things. They did what you're supposed to do against this team. First half, 7 possessions, 7 touchdowns. Crazy stat, Emeka, 1 third down for NC State on 7 drives. They were 1 for 1 on third down on 7 drives. I mean, it was clinical. It was explosive. I think I saw a stat. They had the most yards by an FBS team in the first half this year of any team in the country. And I know folks are going to say, well, damn it, James, it was Campbell. Well, guess what? There's a lot of Campbells on people's schedule. Right, Emeka? Everybody gets that FCS game. So not just you. Everybody gets one of them. So you can just say State went out and took care of business. They did exactly what you wanted to see an explosive offense do.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And that's what you want, right? Like we want that after, especially a game like we had the previous week, to go ahead and take care of things, right? And not let that linger over. Have the quarterback have a great game, right? 4 touchdowns, 300 yards, 4th in, I think, passing yards, right? Mm-hmm. And he's like number 1 in completion with like 75%. So, and then Hollywood, it's been Hollywood, probably he's playing like a top 10 Heisman player, which has been absolutely insane to watch him play like that. So everybody just doing what they're doing. His stat line for 123 is insane. So, it was just a clean game all around, and that's what you're expecting us to do, of course.
Yeah, Hollywood Smothers is number 3 right now nationally among P5 running backs, averaging 123 rushing yards per game. He's already got 5 touchdowns on the season. You want to see a stat line in terms of padding stats. I think he had 5 touches in this game, Emeka, 150 yards, 2 touchdowns on I believe it was 5 touches. So Yeah, that's pretty impressive for a running back.
Yeah, he's ridiculous.
CJ Bailey, look, another strong game from him. And I talked about this going into the Virginia Tech game for Virginia Tech. You know, that was a team, you had mentioned it, they had lost their head coach. They were sitting there 0-3, and then they get Wofford. And again, it's Wofford, but it was a game for them to kind of, I think, re-energize themselves, feel good about yourself, get a little bit of confidence back before you go into that game against NC State. And so I think from that standpoint, facing Campbell after losing 2 straight could potentially have been a good thing for NC State, because maybe it was something they needed to see. Like sometimes, you know, like think about it from a basketball perspective. Sometimes you need to see a layup go in or a free throw go in. You need something good to happen to you to where you can get your mojo back. And maybe that was the case for NC State this week.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that with the games we've lost, right, obviously with Duke, we could have won. And Virginia Tech, of course, we should have won. It's like we're a couple of conversations away from a 5-0 season, right? And that's where we understand, okay, you beat a team 56-10, doesn't matter if it's Campbell, you understand how good you are. And then you go into Notre Dame, right? You're a good team. Like NC State's a good team. I don't think anything differently. Hopefully Notre Dame's thinking, you know, lesser than, so we can come in and punch them in the mouth. But at the end of the day, we're a great team. And that's what we show on film. There's little small things that we have to just finish up on and make sure that we, you know, take care of that during the big games as well.
Defensively for NC State, again, took care of business, gave up 10 points, but both scoring drives were after turnovers and short yardage. I think 12-yard drive, 14-yard drive, which you can live with. Didn't really allow a sustained drive. Same thing. Feel like maybe you could get some confidence from that performance going into what you think is going to be against one of the better offenses you'll face this year.
Yeah, and we talk about Notre Dame. CJ Carr is kind of turning it up a little bit. He's finding his groove. They've played some tough teams now, and that's a really good team as well. They lost to 2 top 10 opponents. So of course, like our defense has to go out there and do their thing versus that team with a talented guy like Jeremiyah. But it's a great opportunity to make a bigger name for yourself, right? We've heard about everybody. We've heard about Hollywood. We've heard about CJ, but this is the national stage now again, and that's where you really like capitalize on those moments and really put NC State onto like the map in a bigger way of this season, right? Getting ourselves ranked, putting ourselves in the position to be ranked this year is like this game that we truly want.
I believe you in 2017, correct me if I'm wrong, I believe you went up and played at Notre Dame or traveled with the team up there as a freshman.
Travel with the team. A good way to put it.
Yeah. I can't remember because I know you got going later in the year. I believe that game was more earlier in the year, so maybe you didn't get into that one. But again, you experiencing that, playing in that environment, you know it. You know the stories. You've probably seen Rudy, heard about it, watched it. Like one of the more storied environments in college football. Playing in the ACC, you know this, outside of really Carter Finley, maybe Clemson, Virginia Tech, Florida State, there aren't many environments that you would put up there close to what you're going to experience this weekend. So for NC State, when you go into this environment, tell the listeners what that's going to be like. What was it like going up there? I think it was a night game for you guys. Yeah. What was it like going up and playing at Notre Dame?
That's like, it's faint because it's so far, but it's still vivid. That's what every kid dreams of. They dream of games like that. I think that Notre Dame is probably like the staple team because it's just so iconic with the Rudy and with everything that they have, that tradition, that history. So that's what it was. It was tradition. It was history. It was a lot of energy in there, right? It's loud. Their team is like huge. The O-line, I remember their O-line was just huge, like 6'8", 6'7", just like people that you don't usually see just walking around day to day. And I remember that year they had Josh Adams. And they had a really cool, just like slogan for him for Heisman. And man, it would just like pop, like the crowd would pop. So it's a real rich environment. It's a real cultured history, of course. And that's something that you have to fight up against, right? You have to be able to go in there and bring your A game because, you know, they're not going to back down for anybody.
Yeah, I think the thing to me that's scariest about playing in an environment like this, and it happened, I believe, to you guys in 2017, you have to remember it's a 4-quarter game, and it can kind of steamroll on you a little bit there if you let it in terms of the momentum. Because I think NC State went up there, I think started strong early on, maybe jumped out even to a lead, and then had maybe a couple turnovers, gave up a couple explosives. And next thing you know, you're swimming upstream in that environment with that crowd. And it just kind of got, I think, a little overwhelming, right? And you
Yes.
know this as an offense. You don't want to be in a position where you're up there against Notre Dame chasing down a 2-score lead, because that's when you really can, I think, feel that atmosphere.
Exactly. I think that like teams like that have a game plan and they kind of play like I think schools in general have a cultural like, history or like strategic game plan that they play, right? Run heavy, give the ball to their backs and just get downhill. So that's going to be their game plan. You turn the ball over, you're going to give it to Jeremiyah Love, they're going to give it to their other back. Price is really good as well. That's going to go downhill at you. So it's like when you get in the behind situations, that's when you find yourself a lot further behind. I mean, we started off really strong. Kelvin had like a one-handed touchdown. Then we had some turnovers that happened, and then they just gave the ball to Josh Adams. He had like 200 yards that game, I believe. So that's that's going to be the game plan. It's been you can switch around your head coaches, you can bring in different people, but it's going to be the same thing over and over again at schools for some reason. And we just have to be aware of that, right? We have to take care of the ball. We have to like execute on our side, and yeah, it's going to be a 4-quarter game. That's truthfully how it goes.
Look, if you love running backs, this is going to be the game to watch this weekend. NC State's going up to Notre Dame to face the Irish with Hollywood Smothers, arguably the top running back in the ACC. Notre Dame has 2 of them who are outstanding. Jeremiyah Love, a lot of people consider him, Emeka, the number 1 running back in the country in terms of being draft eligible. They think he might be the top draft eligible running back. And then you also have Jadarian Price, who's averaging 7.4 yards per carry. He has 7 touchdowns on the season, 1 more than Love. Yeah, this 1-2 punch together for Notre Dame, they are averaging 159 or right at 160 rushing yards per game between the 2 of them.
Yeah, they know what they're doing at Notre Dame, obviously, and Jeremiyah Love is an extremely explosive player, somebody that's fun to watch. I think that just like it's fun to see that we have such competitors on the offensive side, not just in the ACC, but like national, and that's where we kind of have that flare back. We have that fight back, that punch that they can maybe have a punch. We can have a punch back as well with the explosive plays that Hollywood and CJ have been making this year. So yeah, they got some good guys on the offense, but I think like we do too as well. So it's just at the end of the day, right? You just got to play your best players and give the ball to the best players as well, and let them play.
And you've been in situations like this where you play great players. I mean, where it feels like, I think back to the Louisville game where you're playing Lamar Jackson. I mean, just the vibe of Lamar Jackson. You go in and it's almost just you fear this guy, right? I mean, that's what he kind of established there. I mean, and you see it at Notre Dame. I know you faced it against some Clemson teams. When you go into a game like this where look, that other team, they've got some firepower. And it's going to be hard for us to go in there and say, hey, we're going to win this game against Notre Dame with our defense. Yeah. How do you feel mentally NC State's looking to approach this game this week? Do you think they're going in and saying, hey, we're probably going to have to win this game with our offense?
Yeah, I think there's like 2 ways to go about it, right? The first way is that we're going to win this game with our offense, right? We have to play our best. We have to give our playmakers the ball. We have to let CJ make great decisions, right? Scheme it up correctly. And I also think about it as like NC State doesn't get enough credit for whatever. Like Peyton Wilson shouldn't be a 3rd round. Peyton Wilson's going to be all pro bowl. Right. He's a 3rd round pick. It doesn't make sense, right? Drake Thomas is a starting linebacker and he's undrafted. Right? Tanner Ingle is taking heads off and he's undrafted. We don't get enough respect. So I think that when we have these games, there's 2 ways to go about it. If you go up as a matchup, and you understand there's a big opportunity to be able to capitalize and to be able to take care of this opportunity that you have with these guys that are getting all the labels, even though that we have guys that are doing the same exact thing, just because they have this like brand or culture that they've built up. I think that's like a great opportunity to be able to capitalize for our own self. And yeah, I think that's kind of how we looked at it as. That's kind of how I looked at it as. It's like, okay, this is kind of stealing their shine when they have this moment for themselves.
NC State, we know what they have on the offensive side. I'm not letting the defense off the hook, though, Emeka. And I think if I'm NC State, from a defensive standpoint, I have to figure out a way to force a couple of turnovers this week. And we talked about this going into the Duke game. I think one of the big talking points, it wasn't just what NC State was doing from a turnover perspective, because they had not been turning it over. They were coming off of the game against Wake where they had forced 2 turnovers, including the pick 6 for a touchdown. Duke was last in the ACC in turnovers forced and also had the most turnovers offensively going into that state game. Well, they were 1-2. Since that NC State game, let me read these numbers out to you for Duke. Duke beat NC State 45-33. They were +4 in the turnover margin. NC State turned it over 4 times. Duke did not turn it over. At Syracuse, Duke won 38-3, +3 in the turnover margin. Syracuse turned it over 3 times. Duke did not turn it over. At California this past weekend, they won 45-21, another blowout, +4 in the turnover margin. They did not turn it over again. Cal turned it over 4 times. So since that Tulane game, Duke is +11 in turnover margin, and they have yet to turn the ball over. I'm not saying NC State has to do that. My point, Emeka, is maybe you're due some regression if you're NC State, some positive regression, because you're a team that since Wake, NC State's also played 3 games. They have yet to force a turnover in those 3 games. It might be time that the ball kind of bounces their way a little bit.
Yeah, it like almost has to, right? I think that's obviously something that Coach Doran's going to be preaching very heavy this week, right? Punching out the ball, doing everything that you can, trying to get an interception, diving for these balls. Like it's so important. And then you think about the games that we're in where we might turn the ball over. We also need to get a turnover back. That's a part of that turnover margin is the defense also getting the turnover as well. And I feel like, that hasn't really necessarily been the case for ourselves. So I think with the offense that we do have, if we're able to get a couple turnovers a game, just think about that. It's probably 14 to 10 points, and that's the difference between the games that we've lost currently. So, just you would want to see that, right, as a fan. You want to see that as coaches too, and a part of the team to really just get those turnovers and capitalize on that.
An area of the game we often don't talk a lot about, but I feel like we've been talking about it more and more here with NC State, special teams. And we know there were a lot of miscues against Duke. They continued against even Campbell this past weekend. You had the 2 muff punts. You had the one that set up the scoring touchdown. Look, this is an area at Notre Dame you cannot lose the special teams battle if you have any chance to win this game if you're NC State.
No, absolutely not. You have to capitalize on that. That's not something. The 4-quarter games, you see how Notre Dame played against Miami and Texas A&M. You don't have an opportunity to fumble the game, to fumble a punt, or to do something on kickoff or kick return and allow for that touchdown. That's what they're going to win on, and they're going to just play clean football after that. So we do have to understand that, especially as a staff and as a team as well, to make sure that we clean up on those, especially just like small things, like just not turning the ball over, or just catching punts, and just making sure that's something that's clean back there, because that is very, very important in these games. Absolutely.
When you played, NC State typically played some of their best playmakers as returners. I go back to Naheem early in your career. You had Zonovan Knight returning kicks. You had Thayer returning punts. So like 2 of your more critical positional players. And now we've seen State come out of this Campbell game where they're playing Terrell Anderson as their punt returner moving forward, it sounds like. What did you always think about that, having as a critical player being asked to play special teams? Was that often frowned upon, not necessarily by you, but as a team? Was that something that guys didn't want to do? Was that a way that they maybe viewed it as another way to get a touch? How do you think it was looked at as to being asked to play special teams?
Yeah, truthfully, so my ideology behind it, which not everybody will agree with, but I think if you're the returner, absolutely, it's got to be the best player. You think about Thayer Thomas, one of the best returners ever. Think about Naheem, like we talked about. Think about Bam Knight. Those returns were critical for our games that we played, especially Chapel Hill game as well, and Jordan Houston. Those kind of players were changing the game for ourselves. At returner, it's so important. I don't think that it's just about having the ball necessarily just caught, as well as it is getting that extra first down with the 10 yards, getting that extra 20 yards. So I think that's very, very important. Now on the opposite side of that it's like a lot more about effort. So I think that if there's somebody that's not playing that much and they're very still skilled, of course, like get them out there. But you have to be trustworthy as well. It's not just something that you throw out there. That's where a lot of the people are able to gain that kind of trust with the coaches as well, because it is important to have now Terrell out there for the full game, right? Like we need these guys. Hollywood, you wouldn't want him on special teams. You'd want him to probably have those carries. So that's kind of how I've always looked at it.
Yeah, I think there needs to be a fine line there, right? Like you don't need to be playing, in my opinion, you shouldn't be using it as a way to just simply play walk-ons and true freshmen
Right, right.
because you can lose games on special teams. But you could be playing some of your reserves, some of your second string guys, maybe some of your fringe starters that can go out there and get and create something for you, especially like you said, on the plays where you got to touch the ball. Why not?
Yeah,
You've been
yeah.
on. We talked about this. I believe it was the weight game where you come out in the very first play, you give up a like those plays can win games for you just returning a kick. So, yeah, I think there's a fine line there. I think you've seen NC State work here over the last couple of games to get more of their rotational players on special teams. Now you're
Mhm.
seeing it with Terrell. I think returning it. I'm interested to see where that goes and if that can be something that they can use here down the stretch. But before we move off of this game, I'm going to ask you, give me for you going into this game against Notre Dame, where it can be offense, defense, special teams, whatever you want to choose. What do you think is the biggest key to this game for NC State? Like, look at it like this. If I said to you, Emeka, NC State will beat Notre Dame if, and you fill in the blank,
Mhm.
what would that be?
I would say like turnovers, like you said. I would want to see ourselves in these big games, like bigger games that we've had, to just not turn the ball over and maybe get a turnover as well. What would the score be for plus
Mm-hmm.
one or for plus two? I think it might end up being a win. Right? I would think that you think the same as well. If we're plus two on a turnover margin, what does that score look like? You know,
I'm with you. I mean, I think you look at the Virginia Tech game. I mean, hell, Duke, you were -4 in the turnover margin, and you were still. It
right,
was a 5 point game with 3 minutes to go.
right,
Right. I mean, think about that. I mean, I read out the scores to their other games since where they were winning the trade. Those were blowouts. So
mm,
that tells you NC State was in a position to win that game despite the turnovers. And I think that's the thing that should be encouraging for NC State here as they work down the stretch of this season is, are there some formidable teams on the schedule, Mecca? Yes. But you watch it in college football now, man. Like if anybody's telling you they know what's going to happen, I'm holding up the back of my hand because if you were a person that wanted to be physical with somebody, you could go up and give them one of these, right? Because
yeah,
they don't know. Nobody knows what's going to happen right now, right? Look at Penn State and was it Penn State and UCLA?
yeah,
I mean, who would have seen that coming? Right. I
mm,
mean, so there's games here where, yeah, they may look like it might be NC State can't win at Notre Dame or Miami looks too formidable. No, you go and play the game. And the thing I like about State, and you probably would appreciate this, I think offense, if you've got it, you've got a puncher's chance. Like
mm,
every weekend. Like, I mean, I even feel that way over defense because to me, sometimes I think offenses are too good to where I can say, well, my defense is going to go win that game for me. I think that if you're the underdog, you'd rather be in a shootout than trying to win something, I think, low scoring.
yeah, absolutely. I think that, like you said, I think it's very important that anybody has kind of any chance at all, and to think that you can just sit there and just like walk over some team that has prepared and has these guys that are extremely talented is it'd be disrespectful to say. And it is important because sometimes even just I think the Clemson team when I was playing 21, I think Andrew Booth said he wasn't prepared for the receivers, right? It's like good, like good. We don't. It doesn't matter if you're prepared or not. You have one opportunity, and we
Mm-hmm.
maximize on it. And then we're going to go and take that. So I think for NC State, you kind of look at it as like that. They probably are going to favor Notre Dame. They're probably going to have everybody just backing Notre Dame. But yeah, like let's go punch them in the mouth. Let's go steal one from them and allow this momentum to get back onto our side.
As a player, did you always view this as one of those money games where,
Mhm.
the eyes are all on you? Like this is one of those, maybe it's 2, 3 games a year where you feel like, and even if you separate rivalry from it, where you just feel like there's a little bit more to it. You always want to say all the games matter the same, but you still know, even from an outsider's perspective, there's certain games that carry a little more weight. And I feel like for a lot of these teams in the ACC, when they get that opportunity against Notre Dame, you have to feel like it's a little different.
Absolutely. It's a different game. And I think that, maybe coaches or people or fans will say it's another game, but it's not. And I think that you should look at it that kind of way. I've always been a little bit against that because it's an opportunity to change your life. It's an opportunity to make a name for yourself. It's an opportunity to change coaches' lives as well. And to take advantage of that opportunity to be able to really just put your name on the map, to put the team's name on the map as well, it's a blessing. Like you want to run to it, not from it.
There you have it. NC State versus Notre Dame this week up in South Bend. We will have full coverage up there. Our guy Rob McLam's going. And I appreciate Emeka joining us tonight. We will have his social media information down in the description. So make sure you follow Emeka if you haven't done so yet here. Follow us on YouTube at Inside Pack Sports. Also check out the website, www.insidepacksports.com, for the latest coverage of NC State athletics.